My name is Jane Boulton. I live in Palo Alto, California, and I'm a writer. I had a teacher friend who was a very special friend of mine, and one day she came over bringing a book, and then I found out the book was published in 1920 by Atlantic Monthly Press, and it was indeed a charming, charming diary. I wanted to have the book for myself, but realized that it came out in a 650 edition and had very little chance of getting it. So I made some copies of my favorite parts. And after that, I moved to a sheep ranch in Alberta, and through a very, very heavy first winter, I had something wonderful to do, which was to work on Opal's diary and find the fragments that I wanted to send to Ms. Magazine, which at that time was a brand new magazine for women. One of the editors at Macmillan was charmed by it too, and she asked me by telephone if I would turn it into a book. Well, all of this is completely her work. It is all of Opal's words, and it's just the part that I liked the story. I loved the characters that came in this little village where she lived, and it told a story of what happened at the turn of the century that describes very well how people lived. I had written ahead to Opal, and she had never answered me, so I said, we are just going to go there and see what she's like, because she was then in her 80s. We went to this large auditorium type room, and they had little tables, and one of the nurses brought us some tea, and she said she would bring Opal to us, and there she came. And just came running up to us. She was so anxious to have company, and so anxious. She said, I loved getting your letter, but you didn't tell me how many sheep you have. Opal Whiteley herself wrote me this little note, because she was very pleased with the poetic lines I gave to her diary. So we talked to her, and I was asking her about her life, and she went on and on and on about some of these things that had happened, and I had no idea whether they were true or not, because she felt she was French royalty, and this is what the real story was. The more I read about her life, and the more people have commented on it, the people who knew her and everything else, I think there's a very good chance that most of this was written when she was a child, and then somewhere in her teens she could have brought in other things that she remembered. But there's no doubt this diary is Opal's work, every bit of it, every bit of it. And I think it's a piece of genius, it really is, at any age, and it belongs in our classic literature.